I will be talking about Les Paul. His full name was Lesser William Perfolis. He was born on June 9th, 1915, in Wisconsin. He died August 12th, 2009, in White Plains, New York. Les Paul married Virginia M. Webb in 1937. They had 2 kids, Les Paul Jr., aka Rusty, born 1941 through 2015, and Janine Paul in 1944. A couple years later, Paul and his wife got a divorce in 1949. He got remarried to Iris Colleen Summers, his piano player. Les Paul gave her the stage name of Mary Ford. Together, they adopted Colleen West in 1958 and Bobby Paul in 1959. He was famous for the invention of the first solid body electric guitar and multi-track recording. Paul was also known as the godfather of modern recording studio. At age 12, he drew up his designs for several different guitars and started creative techniques on how to play both the harmonica and the guitar at the same time. His early life, at age 12, used a wire hanger to create a harmonica holder that could change keys. As a teenager, Les Paul experimented with the designs for the solid body guitar. He started by stringing a 2-foot piece of rail from a train track like guitar. The first solid body guitar was made from a 4x4 piece of wood that he doubled the log. His first harmonica was from a ditch digger. Now, as he was creating the guitar, he made an inverted flip-able harmonica, allowing him to play both sides while playing his guitar. As a teenager, Paul continued to experiment with these designs for a solid body guitar. Les Paul meets Sonny Wolvertron, who became his mentor. He played piano instead of guitar for a short time. His jazz shows on both WIND and WJJD radios. After that, formed a trio with Aaron Newtown and Jamie Arkins. In 1963, his first professional recordings as a Rhubarb Red records first Sound on Sound, performs with various hillbilly bands on Chicago radio stations. Les moved to New York in 1938, joining Fred Warning and the Pennsylvanians on NBC Radio. Later plays the electric guitar on the national radio show. He then created pirate radio stations in his basement apartment in New York City. He even was able to perform for the President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Going forward to the 1940s, an Epiphone hollow body with super hot pickups was used for not only performing, but to record as well, which was basically his Kinnickler after spending weeks in the hospital after an extreme electrical shock, leaving him with nothing but burns on his left hand. He became a music director for WIND and WJJD when he moved back to Chicago. Moving to Los Angeles, Les teamed up with Big Crosby and was hired by NBC Radio as his new tro. Paul learns how recording works in order to create a V-disc recording in the Armed Force Radio service. Les Paul is introduced to Irish Colleen Summers, aka Mary Ford. A Hollywood garage was converted into a cutting-edge recording studio for recording the stars. In 1946, Les spent 2 years inventing revolutionary recordings techniques in order to create his new sound. In 1946, Les Paul and his tro tuned the U.S. with the Andrews sisters. In 1947, Les Paul was in a movie called Sarge Goes to College. After that, he lands a recording contract with the Capitol. But in 1948, things changed. On January 26, 1948, Paul and his wife, Mary, got in a horrible car accident. She happened to be driving their Buick convertible from California to Oklahoma because Les was not feeling well. Mary had never driven in wintry weather, which is kind of how this whole thing spiraled out of control. The roads were not in the best condition either because they were covered with sleet, snow, and ice. When Paul and his wife, Mary slid off a bridge, which ended up sending the car over a railroad overpass down a 20-foot deep ravine. As the car was falling, both Paul and his wife were thrown from their convertibles, which landed upside down onto a frozen riverbed. However, Paul was trying to protect Mary by putting his arm around her to protect her face as they were falling. The area was rural with no traffic due to the storm, and because of that, they both had been in the freezing cold for 8 hours. Luckily, the phone company had spotted them and were able to help them. If it hadn't been for the phone company, both Paul and his wife would have died. From the car accident, Mary's pelvis was broken, but she was not seriously injured. Les' right elbow was shattered. His back, collarbone, and shoulder, and 6 ribs were broken. Among other injuries, the doctors recommended amputating his arm, but Paul had other plans. He was able to convince the doctor to set his arm at a 90-degree angle so he could still play guitar. While he was recovering, Paul released 2 songs by Capitol. These 2 songs that were released are Lover and Brazil. that year and a half that Paul had to recover, he used that time to experiment on new sounds and to improve his career in music, while also continuing making guitars. December 29th, 1949, Les Paul and Mary Ford got married. They played guitar together for the first time at Wisconsin's Club 400, a radio show called Les Paul at Home that ran for 23 weeks. In 1950, Les convinced Gibson to build a solid body electric guitar, which only took him 10 years to accomplish. In 1951, they played together at London Padam and the Grand Ole Opry. How High the Moon was one of 7 hits and sold 6 million records. Les Paul signed with Gibson. In 1952, Gibson had introduced Les Paul's solid body guitar. He moved to Mohawk, New Jersey. 1950s to the 1953. Vain Con Disco is released and is their biggest hit. Amplex and Les Paul worked together to refine and manufacture the A-Track. Designs Capitol Records, Echo Chambers, and recording studios. Received the patent for combining bridge and tailpiece for stringed instruments. In 1957, Paul sold over 10 million records with Capitol. Both Paul and his wife, Mary, get pushed off the charts because Capitol's record contract ended, because at this point in time, rock and roll came around. Also in 1957, Paul and Mary signed with Columbia Record. 1958. Les Paul was introduced as an honorary member into the Auto Engineering Society. 1960s. Les Paul and Mary received Hollywood Walk of Fame star, while also receiving patent for electrical music instrument. After his divorce with Mary, he decided to retire from performing. Gibson is given all of Les Paul's guitar drawings and guitar secrets with these. They are able to produce the Les Paul recording guitar. In 1970s, Paul and Mary's Greatest Hits is released from Capitol. His left eardrum breaks, resulting in permanent hearing impairment. Coming out of retirement to record Chester and Lesser and Guitar Monster with Chet Atkins. September 30th, Mary Ford dies from lapse into diabetic coma, which leads to her death. How High the Moon receives Les Paul the Recording Academy's Grammys Hall of Fame Award. 1980s has a quadruple bypass heart surgery. He receives several awards, including Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, including him in a Architect of Rock and Roll. In 1990s, designs and builds sound diffusing wall for his studio. He receives the John Smithson's Bicentennial Medal. 2001 to 2004, awarded Technical Grammy. The town where he was born renames a major road after him and presents him with the Les Paul Parkway sign. This exhibit opened at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2004. 2005. Les Paul turns 90, and there was a birthday tribute concert held at Cartwright's Hall for him. Receives 2 Grammy Awards, one for Best Pop Instrument Performance for Carvin, 2 for Best Rock Instrumental Performance for 69 Freedom Specials. Les Paul is named Inventor of the Year. 2007. Les Paul Chasing Sound released. President George W. Bush presents Les Paul with a National Medal of Arts. In 2008, Les Paul celebrated his 93rd birthday at a sold-out concert that he was the headliner for. Les Paul, in his own words, book is published, so he finally published his own book. He passed away in 2009 and was named one of the 10 best guitar players of all time by Time magazine. Les Paul was honored with many different awards from different places. Les Paul exhibits are opened at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum and Mohawk Museum. Les Paul Monument in Wisconsin. I don't know how to pronounce that. A star is placed on Nashville's Walk of Fame, and his school is renamed the Les Paul Middle School. There is a celebration for Les Paul 100th birthday held in New York Times Square.